requested for most, it would be the Margot Maxi Dress. Hi guys, my name is Jaimi and welcome to the In May The Label YouTube channel where I share behind the scenes and my small business diaries from my brand In May, as well as snippets from my life and the sewing tutorials for my digital sewing patterns. Today's tutorial is for the Margot Maxi Dress. If there is one piece that I have been requested for more than any other, it would be the Margot Maxi Dress, and for good reason. It is absolutely stunning. I'll put some photos here of the dress, but it is basically just this beautiful maxi dress with princess seams down the front and then a beautiful open back detailing with elastic in it and ties at the back. I released this dress in May of 2024, and ever since I released it, I have been requested for the sewing pattern, so I know you guys have been dying to get your hands on this pattern, and I'm sorry it took me so long. I also had a video go viral, I think, at the start of last year where I was making the blue version of this dress, and I've never had so many people message me in my entire life, like emails, comments, DMs, everything. It was chaotic. So I'm very excited to finally release this for you guys so that you can make your very own Margot Maxi Dress. Along with the maxi dress and the original version, I'm also putting in the mini dress version in the document, so you'll be able to make both this version and the mini dress version. I'll put a photo up here of what that looks like. It is the exact same fit, it is just that I did the mini version with a boat neck and a zip back feature, because when I released this one I had a lot of girls who wanted to wear a bra with this dress, and so I wanted to try and do a mini dress version with the zip back option and then kind of like mesh them together. I just haven't gotten around to it for the brand yet, but I'm hoping to do that this year. This video is just for the original Margot Maxi Dress. I will be doing a separate video to show you how to do the mini dress version with the boat neck and the zip back option, and the best part about this is that you can also switch these around and do them as a maxi dress version with the zip back and the boat neck, or maxi dress with the scoop neck and the zip back, or the boat neck and the tie back and a mini, and like you can mix it and match it and just do it however you want it to be. So that's like the best part about this pattern. So like I said, this video is just for the Margot Maxi Dress, but I will be releasing the tutorial for the mini dress in about a week, and then I think I'll also do a separate tutorial on how to do like the different styles and interchangeable sort of ways to make it, and also maybe do a little bit of like help with how to adjust it so that if you do have a bigger bust size, then you can change it around as well, because I did have a few questions about that. I did have a few questions on my Instagram asking if it is bigger bust friendly, and it absolutely is. I'll put some photos up of the dress on different sizes, different bust sizes and everything. These are all from the pieces that I made for my brand, and it absolutely is bigger bust friendly, but I do know that everyone's body is different. So in that separate video that I do in like a little while, I'll show you guys how you can change like the cup size and everything so that it can kind of fit you a little bit better. But yeah, it absolutely is bigger bust friendly. I normally say stick to your regular size or size down if you're a smaller cup size, because you want the tie to be able to be nice and tight, and then that kind of like cinches you in and everything, if that makes sense. With the mini dress version, I normally say stick to your regular size or size up, especially if you're going to be wearing a bra with it. Alright, I think we should jump into the tutorial. Just before we start, I did want to say that this is also a bit more of an intermediate level sewing pattern, so if you're brand new to sewing or you're still in like the beginner level of sewing, I would probably practice a little bit more with some other patterns that I have, maybe like the April top or dress, or even the Mai top. I think that's a really good one that you can start to learn like some different techniques and some of the things that we'll be using in this tutorial, but it's definitely more of an intermediate level difficulty. I would also suggest even making a toile or sample before you go ahead and do your main fabric, because you don't want to ruin your good fabric that you've spent a lot of money on, because this dress does also use quite a lot. Anyway, let's jump into the tutorial. Refer to the fabric requirements in the printable document. Today I'm using this light to mid-weighted gingham linen for the outer layer, and then this cotton broadcloth. Normally I would use a lawn or a voile, but I needed something that was a little bit more sturdier to go with the outer layer. On your pattern, you'll see that there is the boat neckline attached to the front. You'll just need to cut this off for the scoop neck for today's video, but if you do want to use the boat neck version for the maxi dress, you can absolutely do that. But for today's video, we're just making the original scoop neck style. Lay your paper patterns down following the cutting guides and cut out your patterns. Remember to mark your notches. I usually leave a little bit of room when cutting my pattern, but there is the 1 centimeter seam allowance included. You'll notice that at the bottom of the dress patterns, there's a solid line. This is used for the length of our lining as we're using the same pattern piece for the lining. So fold this upwards and then you can cut out your lining pieces using the same patterns. The first step is to join our princess seams. We'll start with the outer fabric first and take the front panel and find the pointed corner on your shoulder strap, and then align the top point of your side panel with the good sides facing. The curve of the side panel is going to be pinned to that front panel, so this will create the curve for our butt. Pin along the edge down to the end of the skirt and then repeat it for the other side. I've left an indication for where the point is on the paper patterns if you need help. I just don't like to cut a notch here, as sometimes I can find that it weakens the strap a little bit. Now we can sew a straight stitch along this edge. You'll need to maneuver the fabric around when sewing that curve, so take it slow and make sure that nothing bunches up. You'll also be sewing with a 1 centimeter seam allowance here and throughout the pattern. Once you finish one side, repeat for the other. It'll look something like this when you're finished, and now we'll do the exact same thing for the lining. So find the point on the shoulder of the front panel piece and then align the point of the side panel piece. Pin along the edges for both sides and then take this to your sewing machine and sew a straight stitch to join. With the back panel piece, place the outer fabric down with the good side facing up, and then place the good side of the lining fabric on top. Find the center and pin along this edge. And then we'll sew these together, starting from that top pointed curve and going all the way along to the other side, again leaving 1 centimeter of seam allowance. Then we can overlock all of the edges that we've just sewn, so the back of the skirt, the front outer layer, and then the front lining layers. If you don't have an overlocker, you can also do a zigzag stitch or an overcasting stitch. The back ties will need to be sewn before you can put the lining and the outer fabric together of the back panel piece. You can make these out of bias tape or cut them along the grain line like I have if your fabric is soft enough. Fold your straps into thirds lengthways by folding the 2 raw edges into the center and ironing them flat. Then fold them again in half to hide the raw edges. The top ends of the straps can be folded in like this. You'll fold over the top shorter end by 1 centimeter, then fold the 2 sides of the longer edges in, but one of the sides is going to go kind of between that upper fold of the fabric. This just helps to hide it all and sit in place a little better. Then you can sew your straps by sewing a straight stitch along the longest edge, and once you get to that end, leave your needle in the fabric, lift your presser foot, swivel, and then continue to sew over that top short edge. If this is a little bit too tricky, you can also fold over the fabric the opposite way, so the good side's facing, and then sew a straight stitch along that top short edge, cut off some excess fabric, then flip it back over so that the wrong sides are facing, and then fold those folds inside each other so that all of the raw edges are inside, and then you can just do the same sewing method as I said before. Now we can take the back panel and lay the good sides of the outer fabric facing up, and then pin in place at the notches where the shoulder straps need to go. Then lay the lining fabric on top with the good sides facing, pin along the straight edge as well as the neck curve and the bottom curve, and then we can sew this together. I usually start from the straight edge and sew down, leave my needle in the fabric, and then lift the presser foot and swivel, and then sew that bottom curve. And then I just come back and sew that top curve after. Repeat this for the other side, and remember that when you're sewing over the straps and you're turning those corners, just don't catch the strap in your stitching, because otherwise it's going to be stuck there and you'll need to unpick your seams. So just make sure that your straps are pushed to the side and you're only getting that sort of edge that is sticking out between the raw edges. After that, you can then overlock those edges. And And I also like to cut off about 0.5 centimeters of the fabric on a diagonal on those corners on that like straight edge. This just helps it when it's flipped out the right way that it sits nice and flat and pointy. We'll go and iron everything now. With that front panel piece, I like to push my princess seams to either side of the dress and make sure the whole seam is going the same direction. And then with the back skirt, we'll flip the lining over so that the wrong sides are facing each other and pinch that top seam so that we can iron it flat. The back panel pieces can be flipped inside out now and then ironed flat. Make sure all of your seams are flat and give a little tug on the straps to make sure that they are nice and tight as well. Now we'll attach the outer layer to the lining of the front of the dress. Lay your outer layer fabric down with the good side facing up, and then lay the lining on top with the good side facing. Pin along that curve starting from one shoulder point all the way to the other, and then you can sew in place followed by overlocking that edge. This is optional, but I find that it holds the lining down better. We're going to sew over that overlocked edge and attach it to the lining. Find the joining point on the shoulder, so where that front panel and side panel start, and directly across from there is where we'll start this stitch. Press the overlocked edge or that seam over to the lining and begin sewing all the way to the other side and in line with where that point is. You may need to push the lining fabric and maneuver it as you go to make sure that it lays flat and doesn't bunch. Once you're done, we can flip the fabric over to the right side and give it a press with our iron. Next, we'll attach the back piece to the front. Open up that shoulder seam on the back panel piece and align it with the shoulder of the front piece with the good sides facing. Make sure the seams are aligned and the outer fabrics are facing each other and the lining is facing each other. Push the seams to one side to help them lay flat when we're sewing and for ironing later. Then pin in place and repeat for the other side, and then you can sew a straight stitch along this edge, followed by overlocking or zigzag stitching. After that, you can iron those seams flat, pushing those edges of the seam to one side. To close up those armholes, find the seam that we just sewed and flip the raw edges over and have the good sides of the lining and outer fabric facing. Align the seams and pin in place. Then you can continue to flip over the curves and pin in place, aligning the corners of the armholes and that seam that joins the front and side panel piece together. Make sure this is nice and flat, especially on the shoulder strap, and then we can sew a straight stitch along this curve. You'll also need to make sure the straps don't get caught in this when sewing. Once you've done one side, repeat it for the other, and then you can overlock those edges. I like to use a loop turner for this, but if you don't have one, you can use a safety pin. Thread the loop turner through the armhole and shoulder strap, starting on the front panel side, and then attach it to the back. Pull it through, being careful not to tug on the fabric too hard. Then just pull the back panel all the way through and adjust the straps, and then you can repeat this for the other side. And then once you've done that, you can give it a good press with your iron so that it sits nice and flat. We're going to make a channel for the elastic now. Take the back skirt panel, and along that top curved edge is where the channel will be sewn. I like to pin along the top edge to hold the outer fabric to the lining, and you can also draw a line with tailor's chalk if you need. We're going to sew a straight stitch 1.5 centimeters down from that top edge, leaving a gap on either side so that we can pull our elastic through. Once you've sewn that casing, take a safety pin and your elastic, join them, and then thread your elastic through this channel. Make sure your elastic doesn't flip over while you're doing this, and then at the ends I like to pin the elastic where the opening is so that I don't lose it. Once you get to the other side, you can then sew a straight stitch just over the opening and over that elastic to secure them to the skirt. On the outer fabric of the side front piece, find that notch, and that's where we're going to attach our skirt from. Find the top point of the skirt and align it with this notch and have the good sides of the outer fabric facing. You'll need to flick the lining fabric to the side as we're just sewing the outer fabric, so pin along the outer fabric only and then repeat for the opposite side. When we sew, we're going to only sew the outer fabric together so that the lining is separate. At that top point where the elastic is on the skirt, we'll start to sew from there to join it together, and then sew down until you come about 2 centimeters over the skirt with like the lining and the outer fabric together. Then you'll need to flick the lining to the side and continue to sew just the outer layer. And then you can repeat this for the other side. This is what it should look like. So that top point is pretty much the only part where you sew the lining fabric, and then you just have to push it to the side. You'll then need to do the same when overlocking it. So begin at that point, sew just over the elastic and down by about 2 centimeters, and then flick the lining to the side. Next, we'll lay the dress flat like so and fold over one of the shoulder straps so that the good sides of the outer fabric are facing each other. Align the corner of the armholes and the side seams and pin in place. Then you'll need to fold over the lining fabric so that the good side would be facing the good side of the front panel, and then the good side of the skirt's lining. pin along the edge starting at the armhole, the side seam, and then do the same with the back skirt, except this time we'll pin at that point of the skirt and then pin the lining instead of the outer fabric, and then you'll just have to repeat this for the other side. When you sew, you'll start from the armhole point and sew over those 4 layers down to the point of the back of the skirt, joining that back panel piece to that side seam. And then when you get to that point of the back skirt, we'll sew over the elastic and down by about 2 centimeters like what we did before, and then flick that outer layer this time of the back skirt to the side and just sew the lining together. And then you'll just repeat this for the other side. Once you've done that, you'll do the exact same method, but this time overlooking those seams. And then I also like to cut off about 0.5 centimeters of fabric diagonally at that armhole corner just to help it sit nice and flat. Flip the dress inside out and we're almost done. We'll firstly iron your side seams so that they're nice and flat. also see here that this is how that back skirt side seam should end up looking like. For the hem, I like to do a double folded hem, but you can just also do a regular hem if you prefer. Firstly, overlock both of the bottom edges of the outer fabric and the lining. Then we'll go to the iron and fold over that overlocked edge by 1 centimeter and iron it flat all the way around. Then you'll fold it over once more to hide that raw edge and iron it flat. Do this for both the outer fabric and the lining, or if you're like me, I just ended up folding the lining fabric while I was sewing because I've just done it that many times. If your machine has a removable arm, you can take that off to help with sewing the hem. And now all you have to do is sew your hem. I like to make sure I'm sewing as close to that folded edge as possible to make it look super neat. So if I need to move my needle over slightly, I will. So with the outer fabric, I've already ironed those double folds over already. So it was very quick for me to just sew and finish that hem. And then with the lining fabric, I just folded it as I was sewing. I just folded it over twice, and it is a little bit more fiddly, but if you do folded hems or rolled hems often, I'm sure you'd know how to sew this pretty quickly. And then once you're done, give it one final press with your iron, and then you have finally finished your Margot Maxi Dress. And that brings us to the end of the tutorial. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'm so excited to see you create your very own Margot Maxi Dress. I would love to see what you guys create and the fabric choices that you use for the Margot Maxi Dress. So if you make your very own, please be sure to tag me on Instagram at sewing_in_May. That is my Instagram for my sewing patterns, and I'm trying to grow that account and have that focused more on my patterns rather than my In May the Label account. I'm trying to keep that focused as my brand and the fashion label. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I can't wait to see your Margot Maxi dresses, and also if you're wanting to make the mini dress with the boat neck and zip back option, I will be releasing that video hopefully next week for you guys to make that version as well. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below or send me a DM on Instagram and I'll get back to you to help you out. And thank you so much. I hope you enjoy, and bye.